with Thompson Machinery.
Right.
It may be, we got to criticize that company, but that's the way history fell.
There was a company in Thibodeau that had been there since World War II period, manufacturing cane harvesting equipment, cane harvester, cane loader. B.C. Thompson, who was the owner of the company, sold it to Lamb Industries, which was a company from Toledo, Ohio. Well, anyhow, fast forward a bit in time. About 1964, there was a strike at Thompson Machinery. It wasn't unionized, but the people were thinking about forming a union. You had that trouble, and things started to fall apart at a rapid rate. There was a whole lot of discussion going on with local people about the possibility of either acquiring it or starting something new. Well, came up, we were going to do something, didn't have a clue what the hell we were going to do, other than try to get into the same business that we had been in for a few years.
You saw this opportunity overseas, and because he left Thompson, and the story of back then, the company wasn't even formed, so he had to buy an airplane ticket out of his own wallet to take off and go see about getting this business.
That's one thing, but let's put a little humor in it. I was going to go through London and visit with these English guys that were managing the project. It was in February, and I was getting ready to leave Steve's mother and father's house, because that was our little office, one room in the house in the meantime. And I was getting ready to leave the house, and Steve's mother says, "You know, it's going to be cold in London. Do you have an overcoat?" I didn't own an overcoat, so I borrowed his daddy's overcoat.
You still got it too.
Well, anyhow, that was how some of this stuff got started. In the meantime, there was a group of local people, and basically that put up all of the money. We didn't have any money to get started.
Well, we're going to call this CAMECO thing Operation Bootstrap. In other words, we'll give you this money to get started, but I'm not going to expect any dividends for 10 years or so, I think is the way the story went. So that really enabled us, any money we earned, we were able to dump it right back in the company and grow a little bit.
We're trying to find a place to get into. This building existed. This building was and in fact it's still there. It's the oldest building out of the whole group.
Probably 60 by 120 feet.
That's
It was probably the biggest building in and around
50,
Thibodeau.
50 by 120, I think you're dead right. That was the dimensions of it. And it was owned by the Frost, F-R-O-S-T, the Frost family, like Frost Lumber. It was owned by their family, and it turned out that we rented the property from them for $1,150 a month. And that was an enormous sum at that time for the rent for that building.
In World War II, there was a prisoner of war camp there, German POWs. They sit on the site of CAMECO property. I always thought it was.
It was south of the railroad. Ray had some pictures.
I got pictures of that.
Sometime where they had the tents and all out there, and it was just south of the railroad, south of CAMECO or south of the railroad. When did you come on?
Well, you see now, we got the stuff built. We got the place to build it. We're building it. Now these salesmen got to start running and selling it.
We didn't start as a salesman.
No, that's for sure.
Okay? We started
Oh,
in the
that's why
shop,
it was
you
so
know.
tough.
I was the draftsman at Thompson, and I walked out with them. These two guys would get on the floor. Our first drawings were chalk lines on the floor, and we put together stuff.
Some of the best ideas were drawn in the floor with soapstone.
But through time, we learned better. Draw it with soapstone on a rusty barrel. That way you can roll the drawings to the work.
Yeah.
Well, I started, I worked one summer at Thompson before that fell through. And then I worked from 1965 until 1969, I guess it was, summers and vacations at CAMECO. And went to welding school at Thompson, so I worked as a welder for a while, then a fitter, and finally went into the sales and service department and stayed in sales from then on.
Legato?
I started in 1965, right after the company was established. You know, they already were working in the shop over there. My wife used to work with an insurance company in Pittsburgh. The one, my wife at that time, she was my girlfriend. And I was, you know, hooked on, you know, with her. You know, I wanted to marry her. And I was just studying. I left college and I went ahead and get a job. So she told me they're starting a new company. They just started brand new. They just bought the insurance from us. It was, of course, a good tip. Went to the office to see, you know, where I had the office, and our secretary was
Annie
Berto secretary, and I said, I want a job. And she said, well, you will have to go to the shop. She told me where it was. I walk in and they point me to this guy working in a lead, you know. And I walk in and I say, you know, my English was even worse than now. So I was speaking English to him, you know, and he said, you know, what do you want? I said, I want a job, I want to start. What do you know how to do? I said, nothing. And then he said, fine. All of a sudden, after I tried to explain who I was, where I was from, what I was doing here, how long I had been in college, and all that, he said, why don't we talk Spanish better? Boy, I tell you, I didn't like him at all. He spoke perfect Spanish, okay? Came back a week later and never looked back.
Part of our success was that we all brought a little bit to the table, and then when some task was left out there to get done, one of the management staff or one of the crew with that particular talent would just volunteer and go pick it up and do it. And I can tell you the difference. Today, I'm working with a company that have only 130 employees. So often I hear, that's not my job. To me, there can't be no vulgar statement ever made for an individual to say, that's not my job. And I'm gonna say for my 30-something years at CAMECO, I hardly ever heard those words.
You know, one thing that was very important in our business was language, having people that had a second language and that could travel, because not everybody is suited for traveling.
Let's go up to the mid-'80s. From the day we started till the mid-'80s, about 85% of our business was outside the United States. Only about 15% was domestic here in this country. So knowing a language, being able to travel was worth a lot in employees.
You know, the industry always have been very close. And somebody in one country will tell another guy in another country, you know, they got this new company, got good equipment and everything, and they will communicate with us, and the interest was
We
growing.
also had a saying at CAMECO, once you bought something from CAMECO, you were part of the family. And once you became part of the family, you became very close friends.
So it was more than just selling that product. It was getting everything prepared so that the product performed well when it went in the field.
Now I want to introduce this. All of the conditions and situations that Jake is just described, they were requirements for the harvester. However, CAMECO was fortunate that it had the old flagship product SB 1800 cane loader. That particular product fit without all of those, I guess, manicured field requirements and everything else. So it was a very primitive first step toward mechanization. And that part of the success of CAMECO was that SP 1800 load.
No question,
Yeah.
no question.
The service that we give our customers is the one that help us keep them, as our customers. We used to brag that once we get a customer, our competition will come and take it away from us. Here in bad times, they won't jump the fence they will stick to us because we stay behind them 100% all the time. So that's even just as important as any piece of equipment that we have.
Yep.
We used to travel around quite a lot and look at what other people were doing. In visiting some of the companies like, say, Caterpillar or Deere or any of the other ones that were out there that were pretty advanced, you could see either NC, numerical control, or CNC machine tools were out there doing work. Well, boy, you'd love to have all of them, but how many could you afford? And I think the first thing we ever went to in a automated type piece of equipment was a numerical control plate working machine called a Panamaster. And then after that, it was a CNC lathe, which was a Giddings and Lewis. And from then it was on and on. Now, let me backtrack. I think we had one before all of that, was the Lindy torch, which could burn. We could
burn. Yeah.
Boy, we could burn 6 pieces at a time when we put that in about 1970, and we were uptown. That was the really first big piece of equipment. You could take a sheet iron, 8 foot wide, 20 foot long, and burn out 6 pieces out at a time if it'll fit out of that plate. The first time I saw a wire feed welding machine was at a company in Georgia. And boy, when you look at what they were welding with that and the amount of iron they were laying down, we just had to have something like that.
And Jay come home with that, we got to get some wire feed machines. And man, jet rod was so reliable. Everybody could do a jet rod. The machines never broke. And I just wanted to stay with jet rods. I just resisted the change to these complicated wire machines. And he'd go on a trip and come back. Boy, you didn't buy no doggone wire welding machine yet. When you gonna do it?
So you became friends with so many of these people that were your customers. And you wanted to make sure that that remained, because the fact that Joe over here in this country knew Al in that country, and Al knew that Joe was having good success with the CAMECO equipment. When a salesman went there to sell him something, it made his life so much easier. Converse of that, if he had trouble with it and you turned him out and you didn't want to service it or help get that machine going again, his friend knew about it.
These guys went out there and became friends. And through this friendly conversations, the customers would begin sharing with us the ideas or the dreams that they had, what they could do to make their operation work more economically. And they would share those ideas with us. Therefore, the salesman could bring these ideas home and we could try to, turn them into a product. And that's where a lot of our innovations came from. And I describe this thing as, we were fortunate that we had creative customers, and creative customers along with good employees have shown to assure success over and over.
One of the things we used to do was have a seminar, a CAMECO seminar. And we brought in people from all over the world. And it started out and it would be a week. And then it got to the point where there was too many people coming for 1 week, then we had to have it 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
And then in the very end, it started to be into 3 weeks. Not 3 weeks with the same people, but 3 groups of people. 1 week at a time coming over. Now you're going to have people from all of the sugarcane growing areas of the world coming to this seminar. And we'd get out in all these fields and have machinery running, harvesters cutting cane, tractors and scrapers leveling ground, plowing ground, doing whatever products we had, what they could perform, we'd have them out here working.
And when I look at the big picture of CAMECO, I really think it's us beginning to manufacture the 643 fellow buncher for John Deere.
About 1984, we were up to about 500 people. 83, we back up a little ways. And we were doing two major things. We were in the sugar business, but we were also building a lot for the oil field. And then first thing you know, the oil industry turned down, the sugar industry turned down together.
And then the motto came out, you gotta stay alive till 85.
Till 85. We went from
85, things didn't get better. That's why we were searching.
We went from 500 employees to about 185. And somebody said, look, what y'all ought to be looking at, what there's a real need for is to harvest these pine trees.
Yep.
And we looked around, and what John Deere had was almost nothing. What Caterpillar had was a modified front end loader, which wasn't working that good. They had one or two other manufacturers out there. So we figured, well, this group's got the biggest lion's share of the market, and let's look at what they're doing. And we did that. Now, you can build the best product in the world. If you can't sell it, what you going to do with it? So to make this thing enticing to a group of dealerships who didn't have much to sell, which was the John Deere industrial dealers at the time, we were going to use John Deere engines and John Deere axles. Because using that, we could entice the John Deere dealer to sell it. So we came up with, it was our design, the whole thing, and we started to market it through some John Deere dealers. And it is through that John Deere saw what was going on. Beside them, the people that were selling us the engines and the axles. And by the way, the fella that used to come down and sell us axles from John Deere, later on became the guy that was the one doing the chief negotiations with us when they bought the company, and later on became a president in John Deere, Dave Everett.
You know, little CAMECO here in Thibodeau, we always had the question, boy, I wonder how they do that in a John Deere factory. And you always were searching for the answer. Well, the fellow buncher allowed us carte blanche. We could go in any John Deere factory and see how they did anything. And they shared it with us. So that really helped the production end of the company.
They're the ones that really opened our eyes, in all honesty, which eventually led to what we call factory master planning. We had we had hired a group from John Deere to come down and lead us in that. And I remember the fellow buncher used to take us, this tree harvester product, used to take us about from the cutting of the steel to the invoicing of the product was probably about 60, 65, 70 days.
The first study of the master plan
Was 95
the benchmark
days.
was 95 days.
We brought that down to 16 days. And we were still in the old facilities. The group, which was led by Francis, came up with what we would need in a building to do two products, the tree harvester and the combine. And we built the shop, moved in. That 16 days came down to 14 days. Find a product with the volume, and you could do something with it.
And that same process was responsible for CAMECO producing the 210 LE landscape loader with the lowest warranty claim for warranty period of any CNF product in the deer line. To me, that accomplishment is just untold. I mean, that said, now we there, to me. I want to start with Adele Zachariah. Adele came there and he says, man, I have a project, and his name is RAG. That's relocate and grow. We got to bring sprayers somewhere. And we're looking at CAMECO as one of the very high prospects on our list. And that began some of the conversation.
It went from the fella buncher to their small sprayer. That's what we did first.
That's right.
I don't remember the model.
The 6500.
And then, of course, it was the big sprayer.
4710.
4700 series, right?
Okay.
Okay. And, you know, well, could y'all do this? Well, I mean, what the hell, yeah, what else you got? We can do them all. And that was sort of the attitude. And
John Deere had a 10-year marketing plan laid out. Through some hook or crook, in 4 years, we met the 10-year marketing plan.
well, he remembers that. The reason why he remembers that is because he would always complain that sales department could never get it right. Why in the hell? They know their customers, they travel around the world, and they don't know what the hell the people's gonna buy. Well, here comes John Deere.
Spoiled me.
That we,
They gave us a 6-month production schedule. We never had that before. Like Jake said earlier, Dave Everett was very familiar with us. John Deere was looking to grow. And so they come up with this project called Sugar Plum. And that was go to Thibodeau and tell the CAMECO people, with or without you, we are getting into the sugar cane harvesting business.
they initially, John Deere wanted to buy probably about 15 or 20% in the company. There's just not enough room in it in this business. Enough profit margin in it for everybody to make some money off it. Well, then that's when they came down the third time and said that, you know, the chairman had decreed that John Deere was going to be in the sugar business and you're our first choice.
Memorable moment when Republic comes over on a Thursday and say, CAMECO, y'all doing a great job. Yeah. On Monday, we pulling your loan.
That's a bad memory.
Well, memorable one. That's all. She didn't say good or bad.
I think in general though that the people we were selling to, we had a good personal relation with a lot of them, and they were, for the very large part, satisfied and happy with the products we were producing for them.
What was the key to the success of CAMECO? I'm going to say assembling a group of people that blended perfectly together.
Yeah.
The proof is we're still together.
That's because you owe me so much money.
Go ahead and get out.